So I'm here with recording artist Mike Bizi. How you doing today?
I'm good, Ryan. How you?
Man, I'm so impressed, by your music. I like the fact that you talk about like socially conscious things. But before we get into that, where are you from originally?
I'm from Newark, New Jersey. Born and raised. So, right now just using other outlets, besides Instagram, trying to get my music on YouTube, trying to blow up there because there's a lot of memberships and partnerships that, YouTube has so many opportunities to bring artists from, 1,000 subscribers. You start getting 1,000 subscribers. Now you have shows, you have opportunities, and so just using social media as a outlet to get bigger. And I think that's important. With Healthy Pregnancy, that was the song that pretty much like started everything. Even when you did the write-up, it was so cool because I haven't had a write-up in like 5 years. So I think Healthy Pregnancy was the catapult to everything. It just changed everything. Having Black women to support you. When you have women as your foundation, then that's when everything changes for the better. That's when, you start having opportunities because women hold you down more than the men do.
Right.
Not saying that the guys don't hold you down, because you obviously me and you, we're I consider you a friend now. You know what I mean? We speak
Yeah,
regularly.
that's dope, man. I believe in you as an artist because I feel like your message, is so different from like a lot of the music that is going out nowadays where there's it has no message. But you're talking about black mortality rates and healthy pregnancy. What gave you the idea and inspiration for that song?
My homegirl actually, she was the one that put me on. She was like, there's not a lot of songs that empower Black women and put them in a positive light. So I was just like, you know what? I want to make a song about that. And she sparked the idea. You know what I mean? She sparked the idea. And then I basically just took her idea and wrote it in like 20 minutes. I was just so inspired. Are you a huge Common fan? Like, do you listen to Common?
Yeah, I love Common.
Yeah. So after listening to the B album, it brought so much nostalgia. And I just have so much respect for Kanye and Common. Just it's a timeless album. 20 years later, 30, 40 years later, I'm still going to be listening to it. And so when I heard Faithful, it just spoke to me. I felt like that was the perfect instrumental to write to it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I couldn't think of any other. I was just like, that's perfect. It just sounds like Black excellence.
definitely. Growing up in Newark, what's it like in that area? And how
I
does
would
that
say
inspire your music,
right, because yeah, it's like the best of both worlds. You have opportunities. You have NJ Pack. I don't know if you ever been to Newark,
Yeah.
but there's like different. There's a lot of great scenery there. There's a lot of great artists there. There's a lot of graffiti. There's painters. There's artists. There's all types of cultures in Newark. And I feel like right now I'm in a position where I can change the narrative of Newark artists. Because when you think of Newark artists, you don't really. It's not too much positivity.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm bringing something different. And yeah, it got better a lot. I remember in the early 2000s, it was like real dangerous. Like you couldn't be outside after a certain time, like 4 p.m. you're in the house. And I think times have changed. I think times have changed where people are looking at it as opportunities. There's infrastructure in Newark. There's a Whole Foods in Newark. There's so much opportunity here. You know what I mean? So like I said, it's good and bad. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There's a lot of bad, but there's a lot of good too. But I think the bad and the violence decreased a lot.
Mhm. I the first song I heard from you, it wasn't Healthy Pregnancy. I think I saw online that Let Me Tap Into Your Music was a salute to Kendrick. And
Mm,
what was the inspiration behind that song? Because it's kind of like an ode to Kendrick Lamar. Like, why do you respect him as an artist?
man, the it's so many. I can go. That's a great question. I can go on for hours, man. You know what I mean? Kendrick is just somebody that I look at as like our modern day hero. Like even if you're not Black, he speaks to you. His messages, whether it be songs like Mortal Man. I don't know if you ever heard that song off the To Pimp Butterfly album.
Yeah.
Just that one song got me through a lot of my darkest moments. You know what I mean? And he just, he speaks to you. He speaks to your soul. And that's what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to encourage you and empower you and make you feel like you can accomplish anything. And Kendrick comes from Compton. You know, I'm from Newark, and there's not really much of a big difference when you look at Compton and you look at the problems they go through, from poverty to gang violence. It's the same in
Right.
Newark. It's the same in Philly. It's the same in St. Louis or Trenton or Broward County, Florida. There's
Right.
Everyone can relate to that struggle of trying to come from nothing and make something of yourself. And Kendrick represents that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I really appreciate Kendrick's music, and there's a lot of great artists though that come out of New Jersey. That's what I was saying in the blog. I feel like you have like, the to be like, the potential to be like, one of the greatest artists to come out of New Jersey and stuff. And that's not something I'm saying lightly, because there's a lot of artists that I have a lot of respect for, from, Joe Budden, Queen Latifah, Fetty Wap, like all these great Jersey artists. Who are some of the favorite artists of yours that came from Jersey?
Like you said, Queen Latifah, I think Lauryn Hill, Queen Latifah, those two artists in particular are, the perfect representatives of what Jersey artists represent. Just from their lyrical content, their ability to tell stories and paint a picture. Queen Latifah did that with UNITY. That song is just, man, it just represents the 90s. It represents that Jersey sound, you know what I mean? And I wanted to like bring that back. I wanted to restore that feeling. And a lot of times guys don't understand they can get a lot of inspiration from women. You
Right.
know what I mean? Especially Black women that come from our area. I believe MC Light, I don't know if she's from Jersey. Is MC Light from Jersey? I might be wrong.
Let me Google it. I'm not sure, like, where MC Light is from, but I can look it up.
But yeah, like you said,
Rhythm.
Joe Budden, Queen Latifah, obviously Fetty Wap laid the door down for artists of my generation. Like he kicked the door down and
But
now it's like artists are, yeah, go ahead.
she's from Brooklyn.
She's from Brooklyn. Okay. I don't know why I thought she's been in Jersey a lot though.
Yeah, she
So
probably has, like, sometimes and stuff and everything. I wonder, especially like New York and New Jersey, them being so close, and then like a lot of like New York rappers have some ties to Jersey and stuff sometimes. So like, it could be confusing, like, who's from Jersey and who's from New York.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like you said, there's so many artists that came before me. And it's so hard though. It's really hard to blow up coming from Jersey because there's so much self-hate and there's so much, I think it's like a crab in a barrel mentality where it's
Right.
like if one artist blows up, other artists feel like they don't have a chance. But I never looked at it like that. I always looked at it. I looked at history and I studied the history, and I know that there's countless artists that blew up from our area, and that should serve as inspiration. And I feel like a lot of times, even me, I feel like I don't get the support. Not to sound entitled, Ryan, but I feel like I don't get the support I deserve because there's not too many artists that are speaking on Black women in a positive light. Like when
No,
you go on the shade room.
I feel it's a travesty. I feel like you should be way huger than you are, and like I'm not saying that like to kiss your caboose. Like I think like, just like the content and the quality of your music. There's not a lot of artists who are like bringing like, socially conscious music and doing it well. Like, where it's in the vein of, someone like Common Sense or like Talib Kweli or like, a lot of like the great socially conscious artists that I respect, Dead Prez, whoever. I think like, it needs to go back to the roots of hip hop sometimes, where we're not just talking about like drugs and sex and money. And like I think like, there's a place for that. There always will be, but there needs to be balance as well. And like, the radio should reflect that. I feel like that was the great thing about like hip hop in the 90s, when you like it was so many diverse artists, like all the artists weren't the same. And it's pretty much now is like, I go on World Star or I go on like, Fake Shore Drive or like a lot of these blogs, and it's pretty much like of the same artists. They're all like, talking about like the same thing. It's not bringing anything new to the game, like as far as content wise. Maybe there's like, a couple of exceptions, but like I feel like what you're doing is on an intellectual level, like so far above, like, where it's like, it really forces like listeners to like, kind of like how Nas does. He makes people like, listen to the music and listen to the lyrics and the content. and that's really important. But you were talking, I want to piggyback back to like what you were saying about like self-hatred, because I feel like I see that a lot in the music. You know, you've had certain artists where they've talked about like, you know, black women, you know, they won't date black women or whatever, like, you know, they put down black women, or like, you know, the like in the music, just like things that are damaging to the community. What are your thoughts about like, you know, some of that content?
Man, I think well, not to shit on the shade room. Oh, excuse my language. Not to like talk down on them, but it's like if you go on that page and read the comments, it's always stereotypical. It feels like they generalize black men as if we all kill and if we all rape children, as if we all molest people and just beat people up and abuse women. And it's like if you read the comments, it can be depressing sometimes. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So what I try to do is I look at it and I'm just like, okay, that's just more motivation to not be that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I feel like I said, I don't get the support. I don't think the shade room even knows who I am. You know
right.
what I mean? Which is crazy because I'm one of the last artists from my area empowering black women. But yeah, I'm not getting the credit. And there's artists that demean black women and they have millions of fans, millions of followers, they have shows, they're making thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And it's just like, man, what else do I have to do? But my next single, I can't wait to put it out. It's called The Story of Brianna. And I'll send it to you. I actually want to send it to you and I want your honest feedback. It's pretty
Yeah.
much about black women who commit suicide. I'm telling a story of a girl who ends up committing suicide because of the pressure of having to maintain academic excellence. And that's another topic that doesn't get talked about as well. Black women are constantly committing suicide because of the burdens that society is placing on them. And any artist that I feel like speaks on that and empowers them in that way, they deserve all the light. They deserve all the credit. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's just more fuel for me to just keep going. And as a black man, you even Ryan, I'm sure you've had women, even though you're polite and respectful, you still had probably women come at you a certain way. You know what I mean? Even though you're putting out content that's shedding light on what they have going on, whether it's a business or whether it's, you know, any type of excellence that black women are accomplishing, you're not getting the credit either. You should have a bigger following. You know what I
Thank,
mean?
thank you. I appreciate that. And the thing is,
Not that
like,
you have a good following though. You have
no,
a
no, but
following.
it always could be bigger. Like, I feel
Exactly.
like there's a lot of times where like I really try to show love to people and stuff and everything, and then they'll like, you know, want to argue with me. I think like sometimes it comes from like self-hatred. There's a lot of people who are confused with their identity and like, you know, doing like, you know, just darkness, serving like, you know, serving darkness. And like when you're of the light and you like try to like, you know, bring light into the world, like, you know, it's a lot of demonic, like your forces is very spiritual, where like people will attack you and do all kinds of things, like, you know, to damage your reputation because you're doing good work, you know. And like you're like when you're doing like, you know, the work of the divine and stuff, everything is, it's not for everyone, because like, you know, people who are of darkness will come and attack you. And it's just like, you know, one of the things and stuff that I've dealt with, but I've also accepted it because it's like I know like when I'm walking in truth.
You know you're on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Right,
but
right.
like, you know, it's like people will make up like things about you and stuff and everything. And it's just like one of the things that you deal with and you learn to handle and stuff and everything. I could take it a lot now in stride because I feel like, you know, it's just preparation for the path. Like, you know, and it comes with it. Like, you know, especially like, you know, when you write a blog online, especially as opinionated and it's based in fact, uh people can maybe feel some type of way. And like there's a lot of things and stuff that I don't necessarily like agree with, like, you know, that go on in culture. And like when you were saying about like the shade room, I definitely don't consider them as far as like a place of black empowerment, you know. Like but
I
I would,
do think that they post good some of the stuff they post is good though. But
yeah, that's true.
the fact that Big Sean reached out and you know that was like motivation for me, you know, because I like I said, you know, sometimes even me, I lose faith sometimes, you know, as an artist where it's like you get self-conscious, you're like, damn, am I on the right path? And when Big Sean reached out, that was just confirmation to just keep going. But the fact that the Shade Room hasn't reached out,
Mhm.
it does bother me a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's so many people that get recognition that, you know, and they're not putting in the work we are. You know what I mean? They're not highlighting topics like you or me or other artists that I've even Wale. I feel like he should be bigger because he's empowering women through his music, and they're not showing him the love that he deserves. So it's just more fuel to keep going. You always have to take it as fuel. It's just more motivation for us.
I could plug you with a writer from the Shade Room and stuff and everything, but like she's like on a payola tip. It's not a lot. Like she wants like $75 for the article, like
Right.
and she has like a whole list of articles she's written on the Shade Room and stuff and everything. Like my whole thing is I don't like the whole payola ideas, like paying people to write write-ups or like paying people and stuff, everything for promotion. I believe in investing in your career, but like I prefer like to build like organic relationships. Like I don't charge artists like for interviews, and like I don't pay for interviews either.
And you will get to that point though, Ryan.
What's
I
that?
said it here first. I said you're gonna get to the point where people are gonna be reaching out. That's why I reached out, because I feel like when you wrote that article, I'm like, man, this guy has, because I can tell intellect. I can read it, and I'm like, yo, this guy's smart. This guy's brilliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just with like even some of your words, like your word choice was when you said maternal mortality. I didn't even realize what that was. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, now this guy, he's gonna make it as a whether it's writing or interviewing. You just it only takes one artist for you to blow up. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. And like I feel like and stuff, everything. I feel like the way like it just like takes the right people to connect and see your music. Like it. One day, like like me doing this interview could lead to somebody like even bigger. Like hey man, like I'm gonna check out his music to see what he's talking about, and then have you on their platform. Like it's like it can happen like overnight, and like a lot of times I think people give up on this journey of like creating content or making music and stuff and everything, and like they'll be like really close like before they're about to get their breakthrough. So like the thing is, like I try to do is just stay consistent, continually like improving myself as creating content. I don't really get too caught up in like the numbers or the analytics, because like that'll drive you crazy. Like you have to be, I think like I watch a lot of Nipsey Hussle like motivational interviews, not necessarily like Nipsey's page, but like people who will post clips of like Nipsey interviews. And like one of the things he was saying like was like you have to be comfortable where you are. I was a huge fan of Nipsey Hussle before like
before he passed.
Yeah, before he passed away. Like I moved to California, and like I would see him out there like and stuff, everything at the Marathon store and like Crenshaw.
Wow.
I always admired him as an artist. And like
Yeah,
I went on tour like with him to see him on tour, and I had a meet and greet pass. It was on the marathon tour in Boston, and like I had a good opportunity to chop it up with him and talk to him.
Wow.
Super cool, yeah. But like one of the things he said in like past interviews was like you have to always be comfortable like with where you are, and stuff, everything. And like I can see that kind of like in his career, because like when he was alive, I remember like the day before he died, I was in school. I went to graduate school at Harvard. And so like I was talking to my classmates and stuff, and we were just talking about like our favorite rappers, and they were like, "Who's your favorite rapper?" I would always say Nipsey Hussle. And they were like, oh, like, and stuff, everything. Like they were kind of like critical of that choice. And these are like people who listen to hip hop. Like they had heard of him, but they were like not like fans of his music. Like, they felt like, they weren't really tapped into what he was doing, even though that year he was like Grammy nominated.
Right,
and like
right.
perception, like people were saying like, oh, he kind of fell off, and stuff. I was like, you're crazy. And
right, right.
Like, all the things he was doing as far as touring, but like the perception of the people sometimes of artists, and like they're not necessarily tapped into like all the dope content or music people were. You have to like just kind of like get into the vibration of it. I felt like people and stuff, everything who were like fans of Nipsey, they were tapped into the vibration of it. Like as far as like their thoughts, even like like an artist like Russ, somebody like who's accomplished so much. Like I would put him like as far as like what he is, maybe like one of the most successful like independent hip hop artists ever. Engineers his own stuff, produces his own stuff, and like some of these songs are diamond that he's made. Like, so I mean, I think it's like a lot of times perception. Like people like catch up later. A lot of the dope artists, like sometimes people never really caught up with them. Like one of my favorite artists is Tragedy Gaddafi, who I'm supposed to.
I never heard of him, but I'll look him up.
Yeah. So he was in the Juice Crew. Marley Marl, like, had discovered him, but he went to jail. Like after he got out of jail and stuff, everything, like at 18, he released Intelligent Hoodlum. It's like a classic hip hop song. LL Cool J's in the music video. You know, you know, he's like, worked with Nas. He did like with Capone and Noriega. CNN. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Like, he's got
I definitely, yeah, definitely heard
yeah.
of
So like, yeah, like he produced a lot of those songs, and then like he has like a lot of like really good solo songs, like Permanently Scarred, like Hood Love, and his music, Arrest the President. That's like, one of his biggest like socially conscious songs, where he like it's like it's 30 years ago when he made this, but like it's even more important than it was like then today, like just like some of the content and stuff, everything that he was talking about, and like really really a great socially conscious artist. And like I try to have like conversations with artists like that who I respect, not only the fact that they have great content, but they have like like nice pen games as well, because I feel like you could be a socially conscious artist, but that doesn't necessarily translate to meaning that you make good music. And that's one of
Mm,
the things and stuff, everything I like about you is you make good music. It's good to listen to, but it also has that message. I feel that's very powerful. It's like
yeah.
you can literally make music that changes the world
Mm,
and stuff.
thank you, man.
Yeah. So like, and
Thank
stuff,
you.
everything, never take that gift for granted. Cause like, that's a very, with great power comes great responsibility. And I was
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I was listening to this sermon by like, like Mike Todd, and he was talking about how, artists like they can make songs and they'll get on the stage and they'll thank God and stuff, but like God didn't inspire that song,
Mm,
because like
mm.
when it has like the negative effects for the community, and like there's a need for a lot of positivity in our community, especially now. You see like the murder rates being so high. I'm from Chicago, where like the murder rate and stuff and everything is crazy, like it's astronomical. Like crime seems to be getting worse. We're heading into a recession. It seems like things aren't going to necessarily get better, and I feel like that's when we really need to like hold on to the music. When you talk about like Kendrick making songs and stuff, everything that was able to touch you when you were going through hard times, those are the artists that I've always respected and stuff, that make music like that can touch your life and be the
And
soundtrack.
that's why right now is the perfect time to put out music, because there's so many people going through hard times. It's not just one sided. It's like there's women going through it, men going through it, and to talk down on women or men at this time, it's just not a good look. So I think music is powerful in a sense where it can change the frequency and change how people think and change how people move. And that's why it's important for me to stay consistent. This year I plan on dropping a lot of music, man. I have so many ideas. And like I said, with the story of Brianna, that one song, I'm really gonna push this, and market this, because I feel like this is gonna be better than healthy pregnancy, because I'm diving deeper a little bit into suicide, and it's really it feels like I'm telling the story from beginning of her, having everything from, she has good parents, she's going to school, she's doing good, but that pressure is getting to her. And then at the end, she commits suicide. And it's like, I was so proud of myself just writing the song, you know what I mean? And that's the energy we need to highlight what women going through, and make sure that they know that there's men that support them just as much as we know that there's women that support us. And you can't generalize all women based off the actions of 5 women, you know what I mean, or 10 women, because what about the other 6 billion women? You know what I mean? And so that energy has to be put out. And I feel like I'm the perfect artist to do that.
100%. Mike Bizi, man. There's a lot going on in the world. I wanted to get your thoughts about some things going on in popular culture. You know,
Okay.
um, so there's a governor of Florida named Ron DeSantis, and like basically he's banned a AP history course from being taught in the schools. One of the reasons though is because it includes, like, he feels like topics that are politically motivated, such as like queer theory, So like, it's a conflicted issue in the black community for him banning this course, because some people, like, in the media are trying to paint it like, that it's racist, but he's saying it has an agenda attached to it, as far as like trying to promote like, political ideas in students. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, well, I think the public school system, it changed from when I was in school. Forcing things onto kids is never the right path. You always want to inspire them to think for themselves. But like I said, it's a process. Trying to teach kids to learn and to think critically and to think for themselves. It's really a process. You know what I mean? And like I said, public school teachers, they have a lot of pressure on themselves. You know what I mean? To teach these kids and to get them on the right path. But I mean, I think he just needs more support. You know what I mean? I think he needs more support. And like I said, you always want to just help kids think for themselves. As long as they're disciplined, as long as they're respectful, then that's the standard. You know what I mean? And then you can grow from that.
Man, you talked about like, mental health, like black women committing suicide, the new song that you have coming out. And I wanted to know, like, like what are your thoughts, like, being an artist, because performing artists, suffer from mental health issues, like, more so than any other profession. Like, is that something that you deal with, like, and how do you keep your mental health, like, dealing with like, just like a lot of different aspects, like, being in a career in entertainment, like I feel bring on, because it's like you're experiencing a lot more rejection, you have to put yourself out there, like criticism sometimes. So how do you keep yourself in a healthy mental space?
Man, really, a lot of times it's listening to my own music too. Listening to other like really music. I'll be honest, like working, keeping myself busy, working, 80, like this past week I worked about 80 hours a week, keeping myself busy and listening to music. Lauryn Hill, that the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that one album changed my life. That one album got me through a lot of my darkest moments. And so I think it's important to just have those artists that you can just cling on to, whether it's Kendrick, Lauryn Hill, J. Cole, Big Sean, whoever. You find gems in their music and you apply it in real life. Big Sean always talked about that, where he had a song called Bounce Back. And it's pretty much just like talking about taking L's in the industry and bouncing back from it, using that as fuel for motivation to just keep going. If God keeps waking you up, that's a sign to just keep going. And so there's so many artists that push that narrative of just like, look, keep God first, have faith. Don't walk under the influence of flesh, walk under the influence of faith. Have something to look forward to, have a purpose that you're chasing after. And that's
100%. Mike Bizi, you talk about taking L's, what's some challenges that you face, and how have you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is getting my music heard by millions of people. That's probably I just want at least 1 million people to know who I am. And then you build from that. That's a strong foundation. But to get to that point is real difficult. You know what I mean? Especially when you're doing everything by yourself. You're an independent artist. There's a lot of pressure because you're doing in the beginning, you're doing everything by yourself. And then once you accumulate success, that's when everyone wants to help. It's like even with you doing interviews, they won't support you until they see, oh, they did an interview with J. Cole, or he did an interview with this person, or Coyle Ray, or once they see you have that spotlight, then that's when they want to support. Then that's when they want to help. So I think it's just getting to that level is the hardest step.
Yeah, it seems like, that it could be very challenging sometimes. And I've noticed that, like, I don't like, though, the fact that people are like kind of like superficial sometimes, and people get too obsessed with numbers, especially when, like, nowadays you could buy followers, like, a lot of times and stuff, everything, people don't have, like, the fan bases that you think they would have. Like, because I've done interviews with, like, some really big people. You would think they would, if you go on my page and stuff, everything, and you look at, like, some of the people I've interviewed, they're really known, and then like the interview won't do as well, like as far as like numbers and stuff and everything that you would think the analytics would do. And I think, like, the reason that is that it's a lot of other factors that people don't consider.
Right.
Like as far as like with social media. Like number one, like if I let's say I do interview somebody who has a huge following, but like I may be the last person to interview them. So like they've done all these interviews. So like my interview with them, like people, what are we going to talk about? It's just like all the other interviews online. So like
And that's where it gets challenging. You just have to ask different questions. Ask them about socially conscious topics. Ask them their opinions on what, like you said, like you wanted my opinion on the way the teacher was, giving his curriculum and his lessons to the students. It's really just about being creative and thinking outside the box. That's really the main objective, is to just constantly, like I said, it's a challenge. It's not easy, but as long as you're thinking outside the box, that's all that matters.
Definitely. What's next for you with music?
Well, definitely. This song, like I said, I'm gonna send it to your email. Can I send it to you now? Actually,
yeah. Yep.
Let me. I'm gonna send you the official song, the full song. Your email one more time, my guy.
It's Ryan Glover 102782 at gmail.com.
Ryan Glover 1027.
Yeah, 82 at gmail.com. I send it in the chat for you.
Yeah, I got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it just sent it to you.
Okay.
So yeah, I want your honest feedback, and really, this is the song that I'm pushing. This is the song that I'm pushing. I have a storyline of how I want the video to play out, and this is what's next for me. Just focusing on one song at a time, because it only takes one. Like I said, for you, it takes one interview to get you to the next level. It takes one song to get you to the next level. And healthy pregnancy is like, it was a great moment, but it's the past at the end of the day. So now it's about moving forward and looking at the next project. And then after Story of Brianna, I have another song called Stay Down, which is just like a hip hop record. It's not really too, socially conscious, but this song is really the next one I'm producing. The next one I'm focusing on.
As dope. Mike Bizi, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Tell me, like,
Yeah.
who are your top 5 MCs? We got like about 6 minutes left and stuff and everything. So like to kill time, tell me like your top 5 rappers and
Who's
why.
your top 5? Who's your top 5?
Tupac, Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, Russ.
Oh, you said that quick.
Yeah,
you said, who's the top? Who's number 5?
Russ.
Your top 5 all time over Nipsey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good list. Definitely Tupac probably be number 1. Jay, Kendrick, Cole, Nas.
Yeah, that's a good list too. It's debate, like it's a bunch of people, and I'm so mad because there's a lot of people and stuff I would give honorable mention to. I put if I gotta give honorable mention, like Nipsey would obviously be honorable mention. Logic would be honorable mention.
Logic is dope.
Yeah.
Like sleep on Logic.
Yeah, 100%. Like I feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit that he deserves and stuff and everything, but he made some classic records, like for his time frame when he was putting out music, regularly. He was doing his thing.
That 1-800 song, that was the one.
Another person I feel like people they disrespect all the time is Eminem, though. Like
Eminem would be in my honorable mention too. You'd probably be like right under Nas and Jay.
Man, I was watching this. Are you familiar with like the idea like people are a guest in hip hop culture? They like, if you're not black, you're a guest in hip hop culture. So it was like this debate because like I think Mav Hoffa called China Mac. China Mac is Asian. He's an Asian rapper. I'm not familiar with him, but he was saying like basically.
Yeah, I'm familiar with China Mac. He does he does a lot of interviews on Vlad, and I tune in.
Yeah. So they were saying like he's a guest in hip hop culture, and China Mac did a video, which I feel like makes a really good point because he's like he's born in New York, like the birthplace of hip hop, and
Yeah.
like he got involved in hip hop in like I think like 1987, and he's pretty knowledgeable about hip hop. Like I like watch a lot of his interviews and stuff and everything. He knows a lot about hip hop. So he was like, "How is he a guest?" And he was like, if you apply that logic to anything like else, like let's say like basketball, for instance, which was created by Dr. James Naismith, who's a white man. So Michael Jordan would be a guest in hip hop. LeBron James is a guest in hip hop. Like, I felt like, that logic made kind of like a lot of sense. What are your thoughts about like, just the whole guest of hip hop idea?
Yeah, I think it's important to pay respect because at the end of the day, it was, the founders of hip hop are Black. So, you should pay your respect. But I think as long as you're doing that, like Eminem's always paid his respect. He's always,
Right.
you know, um, encouraged artists, signed artists that were Black. 50, I mean, he put 50 on. So, I think just by doing that, that shows, Eminem's always said that as well. I think Eminem has always been vocal about understanding that this is Black culture and that we're participants of it. So I
Yeah.
think that, that's very important to pay your respect.
Yeah, I feel like
Understanding that our yeah.
like as long as you come into the culture like with the attitude, like not just to exploit it, because I feel like in the past, like I've seen like a lot of artists, from other cultures, like where they come in sometimes and stuff and everything to exploit, not to put it, like
And if
Mark.
the music is good, the music is good. Like Eminem, you can't deny he's one of the greatest, arguably the greatest. You can debate Eminem is the GOAT. And my thing is like if you put the work in, then there's nothing anyone can they can't take that away from him. His accomplishments, what he's contributed to the culture, you can't take that from Eminem.
No, 100%. Like I
Yeah.
love him as an artist, like and he's created like one of the greatest hip hop movies of all time, being
Mhm.
8 Mile. Like that's a classic like hip hop battle rap film, and like made like battle rapping like for a period like where it was like super. It was like one of these super cool things, like on par, like like you think of like Flashdance, what it did, or like like other disco movies, or like whatever. Like I mean, I think that's really cool. Like that he's pushing the genre forward and like shining a light, like on artists like from Detroit.
Yeah,
Being
yeah. Eminem is one of the greatest.
man, most definitely.
Yeah.
Mike Bizi, like thank you so much for taking the time, and like I really wish you success in your journey and stuff. Like
Yeah, same to you, brother. I thank you, man. We gotta do a follow up too. Like after the story of Brianna, when it's out and the video's done, and people are talking about it, I want to do a follow up interview and just connect again and talk about our future plans and what's your future plan. Like, what do you see yourself doing? Like after this interview, like what's the next step for Ryan Glover?
oh man, like so like I'm gonna say like interviewing artists, like I interview like just artists who I really like their music, whether they're established or like up and coming artists. It's not about like as far as like the viewers, but like I just like to shine light on people like who I feel deserve it in culture. Like maybe even like sometimes people who are established don't even get like the love that they should get. So like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's always like people who are overlooked, and like I want to give them like their flowers while they're here.
I think another person you should interview is Boyce Watkins. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
financial.
I've reached out to Voice a lot of times and stuff and everything. Maybe that'll happen in the future. I've had some conversations
I'll,
with him.
I'll, I'll do my best to connect you. That's my mentor.